And I'm now racing to the front of the stage to try and beat this cloud of smoke. And it just sort of swamped over the book. And there's literally a bar and a half to go or something before I've got to start singing. The only thing I can do is to dip down into the smoke, and I'm going wafting the smoke away. At which point the footlights came on, the blinding footlights in my eyes. So I managed to get a couple of words of what I thought, and I popped up over the top of the smoke and whatever, so down again, more of this.
It wasn't sort of working for us both. For him, it wasn't fair for him, and it wasn't fair for us, really, that it just wasn't working.
After his year in Black Sabbath, Ian Gillan put out feelers to see if a Deep Purple reunion could work. John Lord and Ian Pace had left Whitesnake and were free of commitments. Roger Glover and Ritchie Blackmore agreed to put Rainbow on hold, and the five met up in May 1984 in Vermont in the USA.
Somewhat of a historic occasion. It was the first time in 11 years that the five of us had been in the same room.
It was weird, you know. It was like five old lions in a zoo that had suddenly been asked to share the same cage for the first time since they were cubs.
First 5 minutes, a little strange. After that, fine. Everybody realised, yeah, we want to try it. We don't want to just do a nostalgia trip.
After all the bitterness and enmity and friction, stupidity and years of relentless hate, it was great to see various members in 2s and 3s sitting in the pub in Vermont. We were up in Stowe in Vermont, away from everything. Just getting together and laughing about old times and forgiving each other.
After this honeymoon period, old antagonisms came to the fore again.
In 1985, we started doing the next album, and that's when the cracks started to show again. You know, it didn't last long.
Ritchie said, I want a rehearsal session without Ian Gillan being around. We kind of agreed with that. Ian wasn't happy about it, of course.
By 88, Ritchie had come to us and said, look, I'm afraid it's him or me.
I'm caught up in this because I'm, on the one hand, Ian Gillan's probably my best friend. My longest friend, certainly. And my partner. And on the other hand, I'm in a band who's increasingly unhappy with his behaviour.
I banged my fist on the table and I said, what are we, a rock band or what? And Roger leaned across the table and said, Ian, you've gone too far this time. Well, maybe I have. Frustration building up in a big way. Anyway, I went home and I got a phone call. I can't remember how much later it was. Not to me, but to my manager, Phil, who phoned me up and said, I've just had a phone call from Bruce. I said, I've been fired, haven't I? He said, yeah. So, I mean, I knew it was coming.
While Gillan nursed his wounds, another ex-Purple vocalist was on the verge of his biggest success. David Coverdale, with a new Whitesnake lineup, had recorded the LP in 1987. But, to his disgust, the record company had demanded a complete remix.
I smashed the cassette against the wall. I was furious. I was ready to try to break contract and all this. Until I got to the States and heard on a shitty rental car radio this remarkable sound.
Whitesnake enjoyed incredible success in the States. The album sold over 8 million copies. David Coverdale moved his operations to America.
Here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known.
The videos made a big difference, you know, the ones with the girl in. I think that gave the whole new Whitesnake image. I remember guys coming in, have you seen the new Whitesnake video? And I'd say, no. And it wasn't like how great the song is, or what they said, oh, you should see the girl in this video.
David Coverdale continued to enjoy success with different lineups of Whitesnake up until the early 1990s. Then he disbanded the group and recorded an LP with Jimmy Page. Meanwhile, back in Deep Purple, some band members were unhappy with Joe Lynn Turner, the singer who had replaced Ian Gillan.
Roger and Ian Pace and myself, we talked about this. We said, now, what are we going to do here? There's only one singer for this band. It's got to be Gillan. But will Blackmore have him back? You know, will Ian Gillan even want to come back? You know, he might say, get lost, lads. What do you think? You know, some sort of like, I'm not on elastic, you know.
Suppose they asked you to rejoin. I said, Phil, forget it. And this went on, and people kept saying, well, you know, it could be on the cards, you know. So I said, forget it. And there was a very famous interview where I was constantly being reminded of the fact that I said I would rather slit my throat than ever join that band again.
Ian Gillan did come back, but his old rivalry with Ritchie Blackmore was never going to go away. This time, however, it was Ritchie who found himself isolated.
Ritchie was putting himself out on a limb and distancing himself more and more. And you could see the fury was building up. I can't say I didn't take a small amount of pleasure in it.
On a European tour in 1993, Blackmore sent a note to all members of the band saying he'd had it with Deep Purple.
We got this rather scrappy handwritten piece of paper in Prague, I think it was, saying he couldn't stand Ian's unprofessional attitude and he was leaving the band.
I went to see the crew and I said, look, just because the banjo player's leaving doesn't mean to say the tour's cancelled or we're going home. Leave everything as it is, tour goes on, you know. He's got a bloody cheek saying that, you know, just because he's leaving, the tour's cancelled.
I really, really, really don't know what made Blackmore suddenly decide to do it. I mean, it's obvious to me he doesn't like what the band is with Ian Gillan in it. It's obviously not to his taste. So why have done it all these years?
The band got a new guitarist, Steve Morse, and vowed to carry on without Ritchie Blackmore.
There was a sadness only in that, why didn't we do it before? Because now we know we can do it. We were forced into having to find out, but we can. Whether Deep Purple will ever again achieve some of the heights it had in the early 70s and in the the mid-80s, I don't know. And that's lap of the gods stuff, that is. But I certainly know one thing, is that I'm going to go through it feeling very, very happy about it.